She sat on a simple chair, smiling for the camera, surrounded by crashing waves and carefree laughter. Moments later, she was gone. No warning. No farewell. Years later, something was discovered beneath the reef. Something that should have never left the shore. And with it, a chilling question. Who wanted her to vanish? And why did they leave behind this silent witness? A coastal paradise, where the Gulf waters glimmered emerald green, and summer arrived like a warm blessing. On the powder white sands of Henderson Beach, umbrellas bloomed in every color, shading families who had driven in from all across the South to find their slice of perfect summer. Radios buzzed with pop hits. Teenagers shrieked in laughter. Children built fortresses of sand. The salt air wrapped around everyone like a friendly hug. Trinity was there that day, 21 years old, barefoot, laughing, carefree. Her hair fell in dark wind-blown waves, and her sunglasses perched crooked on her nose. She had come to the beach with a group of friends, hoping to celebrate the end of a grueling college semester. A simple day, to rest, to breathe, to feel the sun on her skin. In her hand was a cheap disposable camera, its film nearly full, each frame precious. Trinity had a habit of documenting everything, her life preserved in candid snapshots taped on her bedroom mirror back home. That afternoon, she'd asked a friend to take her picture sitting on a simple wooden chair by the dunes, a place where she could watch the rolling surf and lose herself in the moment. There was something unremarkable about that chair. Faded blue paint, slats of cheap pine, the kind you might rent from a lifeguard stand for a day. Yet it became a kind of throne in her photos, capturing her free-spirited, unbothered smile. She posed, laughed, threw up a peace sign, and then rose to join her friends splashing in the shallows. But something shifted after that. The day blurred together, heat baking the dunes until they rippled like mirages. Trinity wandered up the beach alone, maybe to collect shells, maybe to find a quiet moment away from the chatter. Someone noticed her talking to a stranger near the dunes, a tall man, too far away to see clearly. But the moment seemed innocent enough, a passing hello on a busy afternoon. No one paid it any mind. Minutes passed. Then more. The group assumed she was getting a soda, checking her makeup, anything. But when they gathered their towels to leave, Trinity was still gone. Her beach bag sat in the sand, open, with its contents jumbled as if someone had rifled through it. Her cheap camera was missing. The chair where she'd posed sat empty, the imprint of her body still visible in the seat cushion. The surf rolled forward, erasing her footprints. Panic rose slowly, then all at once. Friends began shouting, running along the shore, searching behind dunes, asking passersby if they'd seen a girl with a camera and a bright pink swimsuit. Nothing. When the police arrived, the scene was already disturbed by dozens of feet, searching, calling her name. Witnesses gave confused, contradictory stories. One woman swore she saw Trinity heading for the boardwalk. Another claimed she'd seen her wading into the surf alone. A child pointed to the dunes, saying he'd seen a lady with a man. The possibilities turned sour quickly. Had she drowned? Been taken? Run off on her own? Night fell on the search teams combing the dunes with flashlights, their beams slicing through the restless sea oats. Helicopters beat the sky with distant thunder, searching the water, as if the Gulf itself might give Trinity back. But no sign of her ever surfaced. Her parents arrived just after dawn, eyes hollowed out by worry. Her mother walked to the beach, calling her daughter's name into the wind. voice breaking with a rawness that made bystanders turn away. Trinity's father kept staring at the empty wooden chair, as if trying to will his daughter back into that faded blue seat, back into the moment, captured by the camera only hours before. Reporters gathered on the boardwalk, their microphones hungry for a tragedy. College girl vanishes, they scribbled on notepads. The story spread across Florida, then faded into other headlines. Days bled into weeks. Police searched hotels, scoured traffic cameras, followed tips from psychics. Divers explored every underwater cave and inlet. Nothing. Her photo, the last she ever posed for, became a symbol of that impossible summer. The young woman, forever paused mid-laugh on a weathered beach chair, with the Gulf sparkling behind her. A single moment of happiness before everything was stolen. Destin kept going. The sun still rose, the waves still rolled, but an emptiness settled over that stretch of sand, a wound no one could stitch shut. People wondered in hushed tones what had really happened that day. Had Trinity trusted someone she shouldn't have? Did she see something she wasn't supposed to see? Or had the sea itself decided to take her, swallowing every trace without a single splash to mark its hunger? In that mystery, the beach transformed. Where once it had been carefree, a quiet darkness now clung to it. The summer that should have lasted forever turned into a story people still told, wondering, hoping, fearing, and waiting for an answer that might never come. 7 summers had passed since Trinity vanished from that bright Florida shoreline. 7 long years where the days bled into each other, where each season seemed to erode the hope of ever seeing her again. By 2001, Destin had learned to keep the horror tucked behind polite smiles. Tourists still arrived, eager for sandcastles and fresh shrimp, their laughter floating over the very dunes where Trinity once sat. But for the people who remembered, a hush clung to that place, like a bruise that never fully healed. Trinity's family refused to forget. Her mother, cheeks hollow and hair streaked with gray, returned to the beach every June, placing sun-wilted lilies where the chair had stood. Some years she would talk softly to the air, as if Trinity might hear her voice carried on the wind. The police had moved on. A few older officers retired, their notebooks filled with unanswered questions. The case, now labeled inactive, sat gathering dust in a metal file cabinet, pulled out only when a fresh rumor reached the station. But the rumors always fizzled, leaving no fresh path to follow. Still, people whispered. They said Trinity had been taken far away, that maybe she'd been sold, or maybe she'd drowned, or perhaps she was living under another name, trying to forget. Every explanation hurt in a different way, leaving an acid sting in her mother's heart. But the ocean seemed to keep something hidden. Locals claimed strange dreams haunted them near the dunes. Swimmers sometimes felt a chill pass through the water, an unseasonable cold that left them shivering even on blazing afternoons. It was easier to laugh off such feelings, to blame nerves and old stories. Yet deep down, some felt the Gulf held memories that refused to die. Then, in early August 2001, a lone swimmer broke the uneasy calm. His name was Mark, a high school swim coach who'd lived in Destin all his life. On a quiet morning, he set out across the waves to train, kicking through the current with practiced ease. He knew these waters better than anyone. The reefs, the rocky shelves, the drop-offs where fish gathered in flashes of silver. That day, though, something strange snagged at his eye as he dove along a reef about a mile offshore. Among the living coral, where parrotfish nibbled at colorful fans, a dark, square shape poked through the sea growth. At first, Mark thought it was just debris, maybe hurricane wreckage. But as he swam closer, barnacles clinging to the frame, he felt his breath catch. It was a chair, faded blue, with slats barely holding together, wedged between coral heads, as if placed there by careful hands. Mark surfaced, chest pounding, waves smacking against him like an accusation. A chair from the shore might wash away in a storm, he reasoned. But how could it settle perfectly upright, almost preserved? Shaking, he dove again, touching the wood. The seat was worn, ragged, but faint letters still showed through, scrawled in black marker. Trinity. His stomach twisted. Mark had grown up hearing her story, seeing her face on faded posters taped to storefront windows. And here, 7 years later, the very seat where she had posed in those final snapshots was resting among the reef, silent as a tombstone. He dragged it toward the surface, breath burning, fighting the weight of sea life clinging to it. When he hauled it onto his small skiff, water streamed from the slats, dripping like tears. The sheriff's office arrived within hours, drawn by Mark's frantic call. Trinity's mother stood on the dock as deputies pulled the chair from the boat. She nearly collapsed when she saw it, fingers trembling as they traced the marker scrawl of her daughter's name. No one could explain how the chair ended up anchored in the reef. The last hurricane had come years before. Currents should have shredded it, or carried it out to the Gulf. Instead, it sat as if someone had set it down carefully, a chilling relic waiting to be found. Questions multiplied faster than answers. Had Trinity been taken aboard a boat? Had someone tried to erase what happened by sinking this reminder? And if they'd gone to such lengths, what else had they hidden? The authorities reopened their files reluctantly, pulled out old witness statements, blurry photographs, pieces of evidence that had been all but forgotten. Trinity's mother, tears mixing with salt spray, demanded they look harder this time. Locals gathered at the shore, drawn by morbid curiosity. Some claimed the ocean was finally speaking. Others feared it was a warning that someone still out there didn't want Trinity's story told. In that moment, under a sky bruised by summer storms, the quiet dread that had haunted Destin for 7 years roared back to life. Word of the discovery spread through Destin like wildfire, stirring old grief back to the surface. Reporters swarmed the marina, cameras flashing, eager to capture the battered chair that had once held Trinity's easy laughter. For detectives, the find raised more questions than it answered. The coral had grown around its legs, as if nature had tried to keep it hidden. There was no logical way the chair could have traveled so far, so perfectly intact. Hurricanes might scatter debris for miles, but nothing explained how it ended up positioned upright, its marker still faintly visible. Evidence teams studied every inch of its frame. There were no bloodstains, no fibers, nothing conclusive. Just the word Trinity scrawled on the back like a ghost of that summer day. Trinity's mother returned to the beach to see the chair for herself. Her hand hovered over the worn wood, as if she feared touching it might break the fragile memories still clinging there. Tears gathered in her eyes, unspoken questions buried in their shine. Why would someone go to the trouble of sinking it? And what did it mean? Locals began trading theories again. Darker this time. Maybe someone had taken Trinity on a boat. Maybe she'd seen something no one wanted revealed. Or maybe she'd tried to escape and left this behind as a final, desperate clue. The Reef, once a haven for curious swimmers, turned into something ominous overnight. Parents kept their children from diving too far, worried what else might be hidden in those coral shadows. Detectives re-interviewed old witnesses, focusing on the man who'd been seen near Trinity just before she disappeared. No one remembered much, just a tall figure, sunglasses hiding his eyes, speaking to her with a calm familiarity. A tourist? A stranger? Or someone from town? Every fresh question seemed to rot at the center, no answers surfacing. Yet the chair felt like a message, a whisper from the deep refusing to let Trinity's story fade away. As the sun sank behind the horizon, painting the gulf in bruised purple and gold, one truth settled heavily over Destin. The ocean might one day give up its secrets. But until then, Trinity's smile, and the mystery of her vanishing, would haunt the waves like a restless spirit. With the chair recovered, Trinity's case reopened like a raw wound. Detectives sifted through stale witness statements, hoping time might loosen tongues that stayed silent before. They revisited the tall man last seen near her, but no name surfaced. No solid lead took hold. Trinity's mother refused to give up, pressing them to search deeper. She believed the chair was a clue, left on purpose. But why? No one could explain how it ended up anchored so precisely in the reef, as if planted to be found. Theories tangled through the town like weeds. Some feared Trinity had been trafficked, hidden on a passing boat. Others whispered she might have been murdered. Her final connection to the beach sunk to erase her memory. Meanwhile, the reef itself took on a new darkness. Divers who once explored its beauty now felt uneasy, wondering what else the coral might hide. As investigators worked to piece together the puzzle, each missing detail felt like a personal failure. They could not wash away the sense that someone still knew more, perhaps even lived among them, unbothered all these years. The chair, now held in an evidence locker, seemed almost to watch them. A she. Daring them to look harder. On that once carefree shoreline, hope and dread crashed together like the restless Gulf surf, demanding to be heard, refusing to let Trinity be forgotten. Years passed, yet Trinity's mystery refused to sleep. The chair remained locked away, a chilling reminder that someone had carefully placed it where the sea would keep its secret, at least for a time. Locals still spoke of her softly, remembering her laughter and the carefree spirit, caught in those last photos. Children grew up hearing warnings about strangers on the beach, their parents glancing uneasily toward the dunes whenever the sun dipped too low. Some held on to fragile hope, convinced Trinity might have survived, waiting somewhere to return. Others feared the truth was far more brutal, hidden by someone who never meant for her to be found. Every summer, her mother still laid flowers by the water, a ritual for a daughter lost, but never abandoned. The ocean, restless and relentless, kept rolling toward shore, carrying questions that no one could answer. In Destin, her name lived on in hushed conversations, a wound beneath the town's perfect postcard surface. Because sometimes the Gulf takes, and sometimes it leaves something behind, but it never gives back the whole story.